Welcome to Innovation Alley. This episode features artificial intelligence experts from YegaTech for a discussion on how AEC firms can navigate the world of AI.
Good morning and welcome to Innovation Alley. We're in lovely Taylor, Michigan today with the sun out. We've got an incredible topic to talk about today with artificial intelligence as it applies to our industry. I'm Tim O'Rourke, Chief Technical Officer at Trim. Joining me is Rob Sinclair, who's going to help head up that initiative for us at Trim. And then obviously our co-host and every one of these episodes, Dave White, our wet weather practice. We've got the brain trust of YegaTech with us today. And I'm going to have Mehdi and Sam introduce themselves for our audience. Starting with you, Mehdi, why don't you tell us what's going on in your world?
Yes, so I'm Mehdi. I'm a CEO at YegaTech, and we help architecture, engineering, construction companies to navigate the world of AI and get themselves ready for the age of disruption. Background in structural engineering, and I designed buildings, went to construction, start building buildings, and at some point in my higher education career, I learned about the world of artificial intelligence. And back at Georgia Tech, when I was doing my Ph.D., I learned that how this could be applied into our discipline. And fast forward, started working in technology and worked with a lot of architecture, engineering, construction firms to create a strategy, develop AI solutions, and test that in their businesses and practices. Later wrote a book about the topic called Augmented, and it's available on Amazon, and started YegaTech to help companies in our space to navigate it the right way and don't make the mistake that a lot of other companies have been making.
Great. Thanks, man. Sam.
First of all, thanks for having us here. It was great to meet everyone in person. This is Sam Zolfagharian. I'm the CTO at YegaTech, based in California. My background is in structural engineering and construction management. I've been working at Autodesk, leading a team, building industrialized construction and a sales configurator for fabrication. And later, my focus was on how we can leverage AI and data in order to personalize our users' experience based on the tools they use and the process that they're involved with in the construction project. Right now, I'm with YegaTech. As Mehdi mentioned, we're helping the AEC companies with their AI strategy and also focusing on AI governance, how they can build an AI strategy while understanding the AI risk as well.
Absolutely. And just from a little context of how much of a disruptor AI is to our industry, right? Dave and I go to a technology conference that EFCG sponsors on an annual basis. I think I was the keynote speaker, one of them.
In Chicago, right?
No, this was in New York City.
Oh, New York, yeah.
And at that session, the big disruptor everyone was talking about was digital twins. Mm-hmm. And it probably dominated the conference. Fast forward to the one that you and I went to last summer in Chicago. I don't even think we heard about digital twins. It was all artificial intelligence. And that's how quickly it has disrupted, if you will, our industry. And it's a term that people use all the time, and it's like everyone understands what but it's different things to different people, and there's a lot of confusion, right?
Yep.
And I'll just, one other metric for you to kind of react to, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I'm teaching at a University of Michigan course, what was that, last month? And I talked about what we're trying to do and merge and get ahead of the curve on AI. And I asked should I call them kids? But I guess students, future geniuses. Who in this room, and there's probably 50 of them, who in this room is afraid that AI will negatively impact your career? And 80% of them raise their hands. And these are the kids being trained at our best institutions, right? So with that as backdrop, just for the audience, what I've really enjoyed in working with you two is that you allied a lot of those fears about what it is, what it isn't, and how it can actually be a huge advantage tool for this industry. So with that, I'll let you guys discuss your views on that.
Absolutely. I can talk a little bit about fear, and Sam can add to it. We have fear oftentimes when we see that we don't have any control over things.
Right.
In my book, I talk about, imagine that you're in Sahara, Africa, and there's a lion, very hungry lion, 5 feet in front of you. What's the emotion that you'll have at that point? You're probably scared to death.
I wouldn't say excited.
Is that a Detroit lion?
Yeah, if it's a Detroit lion,
All right.
God knows they're hungry for a playoff win, right? No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yes. And now imagine the same Detroit lion in a zoo. No, I don't say in a zoo. So imagine the same lion, in a zoo, and there is a glass wall between you and lion, and it's very hungry. But at that point, you probably don't have that fear.
Right.
You're actually excited. Oh my God, look at this lion.
Intrigued and excited, right?
How
Yeah.
cute is that? So it's the same lion, but in a different context. In one context, you're fearful because you have no control. And in the other context, you're excited because you say, okay, it's a cute thing.
That's a great analogy. Why didn't you use it yesterday? I thought it was great.
So it's same thing with AI and any technology. AI, is just a tool,
Right.
and is one way that we can automate things, and we can talk about that. But if we see ourselves in control, this is where the excitement could potentially come in. But when we don't see ourselves in control, that is where the fear comes in. And the first step to do that is having the right education.
Sam, you agree?
Yeah,
Nice Sam.
I was looking at it from every time that a disruption happens, people are uncomfortable to adopt it, right? It's like a change in our life, in our career. And if we look at 120 years ago, I guess by now, the Industrial Revolutionary, when everything was a machinery came up, people lost their job, right? But new opportunities.
Jobs created.
Yeah, new jobs were created, probably much better. Who want to just sit in the factory, put the a bolt from one corner to the other corner? It's so boring. It's not ergonomic. It's not growth. And the new generation want to see growth in their career and also learn something new. And I believe it's going to be the same with this AI, the age of disruption. Yeah, some jobs may get a little bit of automation or be even more efficient, but new opportunities will be created. So those who embrace those new opportunities, look at it from different angles, will succeed. So if we just listen to media makes money by scaring us, sharing bad news. They are not going to tell us, see how beautiful today is, right? Mm-hmm. So let's put media on the corner and see how we can look at this new opportunity and how it can help us with our career growth. Maybe making more money, be more efficient, get our job done quicker, better, so that we can go home and spend more time with our families rather than staying after 5 or over weekends to finish or meet a deadline.
And you mentioned education because I had obviously had heard the term artificial intelligence for decades, right? There was, I think, a movie made about it in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? And even HAL from the original 2001 Space Odyssey was a computer that took over right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's these perceptions of something that could get out of control and ruin you, right? Mm-hmm. And then you there are boundaries you got to put into place so you don't misuse it so it causes damage, right? But and reading your book and then listening to your training that you provided for us, there is sub-levels of education. Like when you, and I want you to answer this question for the audience, but when you made the example of the difference between automation and AI, and I would have coincided, well, anything that's automated and repeatable is what's the difference between AI and automation? So why don't you Which one of you?
What is AI? That's what I.
Yeah. What is?
How do we define that?
How do you clearly define for the purposes of our industry? We're not talking Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
You know, Robert De Niro looking 30 years younger on a screen. What is it for us? I know it's a big question, but in a general context, and to kind of will it down for the listeners today, artificial intelligence in our field is.
So if you think about, so the question is, what is AI? And maybe what's the difference between AI and automation, or what are the similarities between these two? If you, historically, as you mentioned, AI has been here for a long, long time, since 1950s, and there are different, evolution of AI that happened because of the, computing powers, data, algorithm, and math. But what it really is a branch of computer science that scientists try to mimic human behavior, like how we see things, how we learn things, how we talk. So there are different branches of the AI. And in my book, I talk about AI as being like a tree. And the tree has roots in science, like psychology, mathematics, and different branches of this AI tree are different subfields of AI, such as computer vision, speech recognition and synthesis, natural language processing, machine learning, knowledge representation and reasoning, search and optimization, and robotics. So AI systems are basically really good at mimicking how people are doing things or learning things. And when you think about AI and machine learning and automation, think about the big circle of automation being that umbrella term, and AI being a subset of that, and machine learning being a subset of AI, and so on. Okay, so the difference between automation and AI is that we've been using coding and computer languages like Java and C++ and Python to create the scripts or routines that if you run it one time or 100 times, it will run those line by line, and it doesn't necessarily get better because it's the automated routine.
Right.
And you can use that to design, pipes, design buildings, and if you do it, it will automate certain tasks. It's like a script. Whereas in AI systems, what we do is we use data, and these AI systems, based on data that they'll be trained on, as more data comes in, they get better and better. So when you use them, every time you're shopping on Amazon, you're generating new data for Amazon's recommendation engine.
From that data.
Exactly.
Right.
It's learning from everybody. It's learning from you, and every time it's getting better and better.
Right. For me, Mehdi, and when I looked at it too, it was a great explanation. At the end of the day, they're both tools. There's an umbrella of tools, but they're tools that reduce the time of completing something, right? Or learning from and making your search more efficient. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's surprising how many people kind of don't understand that, and I was one of them. I mean, moving forward. So we have engaged, engagement with you to help us navigate this. And in the background for doing it, I mean, that same conference we were talking about, Dave, right? First thing we had done last year was there's risks and minefields with misuse of AI legally and other factors that we talked about yesterday. So we came out with an AI policy from our legal team and our technology team. But that was super high level. These are the overarching principles and guidelines.
Protect our data.
Just basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we developed this policy, and then we kind of broke it down into how do we get it down to the level of application, and not knowing what we know now. And we had heard about you, Mehdi, from our CEO, had been in an ACE thing, and I just intuitively said, we need help. We need someone from the outside expert world to come in and help us do. The thought was get from high-level policy down into application with guidelines. And what sold me when I read your book was yeah, I learned about AI a little bit more than I knew before, but there's a process here to keep you out of trouble or to get it done efficiently and right. And that's where we said, let's do it, right? So with that, why don't you guys walk our audience through the process and the key thing and takeaway, and we could do it phase by phase or how you want to do this. But why don't you, I don't know who wants to start there, but
I can talk a little bit about risk. You mentioned, like, we talked about it yesterday when internet was invented. There were like several like data breaches and people were getting their computers hacked. But eventually we learned from those and we built policies. Now, for example, your IT team build the training so every employee needs to go through those training. And you have like a safe wall to make sure that hackers can't come into your system and you're trying to protect. But it doesn't mean you're minimizing it to zero. Risk is always there. You're just trying to mitigate the risk as much as possible. Similarly, we need something like this for AI. And in most cases, people say we have data governance, we have those policies to protect our data, our system, but AI governance is a little bit different. It's like it has some overlaps with data governance, but we should look at it from different point of view. And when we look at those policies that you have at your companies, which is a company which is really good, not every company has it because they're thinking AI is not there or their employees are not using it, but they are. Like eventually everyone is using ChatGPT or like generative AI or conversational AI. And if they expose your client's data, most of you, all of you probably are under NDA, that's going to risk the reputation and revenue of the company, right?
right.
So you want to make sure you have that policy for your employees. They understand like what they can put in the system and how they can use it. In the meantime, you also need to consider how those tech providers are treating your data. So, and even how they build those systems.
Right.
So that AI policy should not only be internally, you need to question your tech providers. Hey, how you train those AI systems, which data you use, how you're going to use my data. If I put something out there in your system, what's going to happen to it? Are you going to use it for the next training? And how you're protecting my IPs, because every company has its own secret sauce. So we need to also watch out from the tech provider's point of view too. And we talk about the AI risk. I just want to quickly walk through the framework. First, we need to understand the AI risk sources, which could be either from our employees, their internal companies, or our tech providers. Once we define them, then we need to know how we can mitigate those risks and then build that policy and implement it. And we always should revisit that framework because this land is evolving.
Evolves constantly.
Yeah,
so you're describing a disciplined approach to all of it, right? Which some fears of AI is it's completely undisciplined, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to control and navigate. So you had a phase one where you kind of got into our hood, under our hood, and figured out where you at, where you going. And Rob, you were spearheading that with them, with us. And I want to get your thoughts.
We saw a lot of each other through that process, right?
And why don't we'll start with you, Rob, because you're kind of the point person they're dealing with. So.
Yeah, it's our task force, right?
Yeah, the head of our task force with AI. What were your thoughts, Rob, going through phase one with Mehdi and Sam?
No, I thought it was great. I mean, you both were very thorough. You know, we did the employee survey to see where our folks were with AI and what their thoughts and fears were around it. And
what were your thoughts and fears around it?
I mean, I don't have fears. I mean, the thing is, like, I think most of us in the world interact with AI in some form or another on a daily basis. Like you brought up the example yesterday. Just on your way to the airport, you used AI 20-some times, right?
Probably 150. How many times you open up your...
A lot.
Yeah, but the going through the process and brainstorming through, using the mural application and brainstorming, kind of moving things around, prioritizing what our focuses are going to be moving forward. And, we basically came up with 8 ideas that we think we can implement at Way Trim, kind of narrowed that down to the top 3 to 5.
Right.
We're going to even take that a step further in the next phase and try to pare that down to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah, it was good. So what were some of you did interviews, right?
Yes.
Was there any things that surprised you or were pretty normal, or what were some of the thoughts you had in the interviews you had? We talked about the executive team being aligned, which is important, and that's good. But what else?
Yeah, so I think one thing that through the interviews came out, and it was really interesting, was that when we talked to everybody that we talked to, we asked them, what is unique about Way Trim? What is one thing that you think is really unique about this company? And one thing came out was the people, the culture. And throughout all the interviews we did, this was the recurring theme. And thinking about the people and the culture, and thinking about how we are moving into this era of disruption, we got to think about how we can bring all these people along, how we can help them, educate them. And going back to that point, some people in the organization are fearful. And this is 100% logical things to have. Some are excited about it. We always do this at the beginning of our training session, that, okay, what's the feeling and emotion that comes to your mind? So some people are excited about the technology and AI, and other people are afraid of it for any reason. But through the day, as we learn more about AI, what it is not, how it could be applied into our discipline, we learn that, okay, this is just a tool. And like any tool, it has its own boundaries and capabilities, and it's up to us to decide how we want to use it to get the market differentiation. And at the end of the day, most people are excited about it, and they're seeing the opportunity. Now, this yesterday was a good group of 30 people, executives of the company.
You're talking about the workshop, which was phase 2 after we got through opening the hood and seeing where we're at.
Yeah, but thinking about all the people in the company and them being as the most valuable asset of the company, the question is how we can bring them along, how we can educate them and help them to be excited about this. Because at the end of the day, these are the people that will be using this technology. And they need to know, going back to Sam's point, the risk of using AI. They need to know, how to use it, how to leverage it, and how AI can help them do their job better.
Well, to illustrate your point, you started the workshop with a little tool, see how you're feeling, 1 word or less. Right? It was 1 word, I guess.
Yeah.
And we saw the normal enthusiasm too, right? It was a mixture, but there was the word fear, skepticism. Whatever, the negative thoughts.
Yeah.
But fear kind of encapsulates the reason I'm having these negative thoughts is I don't have control, and I don't know what it is, and I might fear it. Right? And so we went through that first round of the workshop in the educational mode, right? And we don't have time on this podcast to dive into all the details of what was taught, but by the time we got out of that session, you said, let's do this again. The word fear disappeared. I think skepticism was gone, and words like intrigue was reinforced, enthusiastic, excited. But another word that showed up was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, there's so much power to this, but it's going to take so much to get it right.
Yes.
Right? Which kind of leans into our phase 3, which is, okay, now we've, once Rob described, we got the 3 down to 8 to 3 to, we had case studies yesterday for people to try and learn how to advance an idea or an area of technology or wherever it was that we wanted to focus, get it down to a disciplined approach to identifying what branches of the AI tree to use to accomplish what you're trying to solve. And so why don't we talk a little bit about that process, because I think that was very important yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday during the workshop we had, 6 tables essentially. 5 of the tables were focused on AI ideas, and a lot of great ideas came from those groups of people that were there. And in the next phase 3, we're going to take those 5 ideas and filter them down to 2 or 3 that we can implement. And I envision us implementing like a quick win, kind of low cost project first, and then kind of have a medium and large size project that we can implement as well. Because to implement any new technology, there's a lot of money involved potentially, training, man hours. But yeah, I thought the ideas that each group came up with were pretty awesome. So.
Yeah.
And to build on that strategy, I mean, to get the importance of getting quick wins, and you mentioned this in your book too, is it could assuage any kind of skepticism, negativity. This is just another latest thing that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we got to make sure these are successful, and targeted. But it doesn't mean the other ideas that we came up with or future ideas we're not going to do.
Yeah.
It's just we're learning how to fish. You're not handing us ideas and here's a fish. Eat it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I thought that was pretty powerful yesterday. I thought it was really good stuff came out of that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of our folks that were skeptical about this whole workshop yesterday, and afterwards they were super excited. They were like, this was great. It totally exceeded their expectations. So
That's good.
But you got to keep the momentum, right? I mean, you got excitement, you got to spread the excitement, and then you got to, again, it gets back to what you're saying, Mehdi. If you don't, do it right, scale it, and then ultimately implement it right, it's just another failed idea.
Absolutely.
Why don't you give examples of that you've seen, or where it's done wrong and where it's done right?
Yeah. So Andy mentioned yesterday.
Our CEO, Andy McCune.
Yes, your CEO Andy McCune. That when the overwhelm part came out, and he talked to me a lot about, hey, this is a big elephant, and how we can kind of break that down into smaller chunks. And this is something that Sam is really good at in terms of as a product manager, how you can break down big ideas into smaller chunks.
Is he bad at it, or you're just good at it?
Well, that on its own is just a a specialization that not everybody has. So Sam, why don't you talk about that?
Why don't you give some thoughts on that?
Yes. So thanks for passing ball.
You want to throw it back at him?
So when we look at those AI ideas, opportunities that are extracted through phase 1 and also a little bit like through phase 2, they could be overwhelming. They're like, oh, no way we can achieve this. And for most AI use cases, we need data. And people are like, we don't have data, it's not there yet, we're not capturing this, what we should capture. So it's like all these thoughts make people feel that it's not going to succeed. So the first step is just looking at what we have today, how we can break down that one AI idea into the chunks that could be achievable. Okay, we have data from HR or let's say finance today. Let's see how this data can help with this AI opportunity so that we can build something, test it, and see how it works, and then move on to the next step. Yeah, we don't have like CAD data, or like we dependent on our tech providers to give us access, APIs, to get those data out of their system. It's like how we can take those steps, break it down so that we can move on. Let's not push back an AI opportunity that can deliver value to us in like 2-3 years just because we don't have what we need ready today, right? It's like when, back to the example you had about grocery shopping. Let's say if you have a party, and when you think about the party itself, what you want to cook, do you have everything in your refrigerator? Probably not, right? Yeah. You plan for it, and then you go out and
plan the party,
shopping.
then you go get the groceries if you don't have it.
Yeah.
And that's, you brought up data, right? And you both talked about that yesterday. That there are mistakes that are made. Hey, let's organize all of our data without knowing what you want to use it for, right? Which creates missteps.
Yeah.
So I thought that was intriguing to me anyway, that let's decide what our AI applications that we want to do are, and then we decide how to organize the data to effectively implement those.
Absolutely.
Versus trying to take God knows how many terabytes of data we got. But let's just organize it just in case, and it can be used for anything. That doesn't work that way, right? You need to identify what it is you want to do first, and then you decide how to organize the data to support that. Is that too simplistic, or is
there are companies in our industry that they spend millions of dollars creating data lakes And they said, okay, we're going to gather high quality data, and 3 years from now, we're going to start our AI project. No. Don't do that. Because that's the absolute wrong way of doing this. Because the data lake becomes the data switch, and it's gonna data swamp, and at the end of the day, you're gonna have really, really bad.
I liked her analogy. So let's just buy the whole grocery store, and I could throw whatever party I want.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Let's just spend whatever we got to do. And I could have a Spanish party. I could have an Irish party. I could have whatever I
And
want.
then they
Buy everything in the
expire,
store.
right?
Yeah.
The food expires. So
Right.
similarly for
Exactly.
data,
Good.
it's
I like this
like
analogy.
the data you captured 3 years ago may not be useful anymore because regulations change, costs change, clients' preferences change. So we need to.
You can't cook those hamburgers. They're 3 years old.
I don't want to eat that.
No. That's
And
good.
in
That's
some
good.
cases, is like depending on the use case, it's recommended not to use all data because it is screwing the process.
Yeah, sometimes you may want to say, we're going to start organizing the data going forward this way.
Yeah.
Not try to go back and reorganize
Exactly.
10 years of stuff that we...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I'm curious to know what was Dave's reflection on yesterday's workshop, and how do you find it?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, what was really exciting was to think about the value that engineers of the future are going to be able to bring to their projects, to their clients. So you get this great data, you develop a process that does things more efficiently. You look at what you've done, and you run that upfront AI button, and it brings you to a better starting point. You've already kind of screened out bad ideas, the things didn't make sense. Now you've got a much better starting point. Then we can spend more time in workshops, brainstorming with the client. They want to make a change, we can show it quickly to them. We can have an interactive...
See the impact of that change in real
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's powerful. And you used a great analogy yesterday with the grandmaster chess player by himself, and then a grandmaster chess player with a supercomputer. And then you said amateurs, but I'm sure they knew how to play chess, right? With the laptop. And they all were given a challenge, right? And obviously the right answer of who won the challenge should have been the grandmaster with a supercomputer. But they didn't. The amateur with the laptop beat both of those other grandmaster setups. And it was because the grandmasters didn't trust the output they were seeing from the supercomputer.
Yeah.
Their intuition and whatever experience was not aligning with some of the answers that were coming out of that. And I think that was a good analogy because it's a challenge to our industry. He's a grandmaster.
I can play checkers.
Well, he's bad at chess, but he's a grandmaster at wet weather management. I probably am considered one as well. And Rob, I'm sure you're a grandmaster in your field. Well, I think you're a grandmaster in your field.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
So if we're asked to do something different than what we had done before using tools we didn't understand or, invent, quite frankly, if you're...
Or trust.
Because there's an ego that goes with being a grandmaster. This guy's ego is incredible. look at this poor guy. That you need to trust a new thing. How do you educate the individual to understand it? For me, what it was is if you can give me a tool that takes all that busy work, and that's what you're talking about, Dave.
Yeah,
all that
busy
busy work, like for alternatives analysis we do in wet weather project management. We go through, in the old days, 3 or 4 to 10 alternatives and evaluate those and try to... We could go through thousands and thousands of potential alternatives and come up with an optimal kind of start, and not an answer, starting point. Okay, now I know all the other things that we used to spend all that time messing with. We baked it into an AI engine that got us a starting point that I can now innovate and perfect this.
Absolutely.
And the client's going to get the value out of that way more than anyone else. And we eliminate, like you said yesterday, we eliminate the things we don't like or think are inefficient in our world. And to me, that's the true power of AI. It's a partner. It's not going to replace you. It's a powerful partner.
Yeah.
So
one of my mentors used to say, he was a great designer. He used to say, as designers, we are decision makers. There's a big challenge and problem. You kind of frame it, create chunks of it, and then you got to decide on this one, and then go to the next decision and next decision, and you're going to help your client to make better decision. Now, if we put it this way, how AI can help us to create a search space and help us to come up with a narrow set of things that we need to decide on so that we can decide better. Sometimes you have an admin and say, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Go and search and give me 3 options and I make a decision and move on to the next things. And an AI is a tool that can help us to create those alternatives so that we can make a better decision. We can make a better decision and move on to the next decision. And, it goes on.
And the power of innovation is truly unleashed.
Yeah.
I want to say something about what you just mentioned about that example, the chess example.
I thought you were going to do the full grocery store, just buy the whole grocery store.
I guess it was Ken or John, one of the participants in the workshop yesterday, brought up a point that no one has mentioned it in our workshops before, was in the like a real scenario, the grandmasters with computers should have won the game, and the element of trust was missing. And they weren't educated. They didn't know. So
that was Vin Rubino, I think, from my table.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So that element was missing. That's why they didn't trust the system, and probably because of lack of education.
Right.
So if they had the knowledge, they had the experience, and they had like a partner with them, so probably they could win it much faster and simpler, but the element of trust was missing. So once we understand something, that doesn't look like a black box to us. So then we learn how to trust to it, and we learn how to partner with it. And they could validate the result based on their experience, but they just decided to ignore it. So that's why
Sam, that's kind of true with every new great thing that comes, right? I mean, there's a recent movie came out about BlackBerry.
Oh, I just, yes.
You see that?
On the way to here.
And the guys from BlackBerry hearing what Jobs' vision of putting everything in a phone was ridiculous in his mind. That's the first reaction, right?
Yes.
I don't understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And now everyone in the world has one of these things in their hand, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how education and learning from it. We're actually coming towards the end of our time here, but I do want to cover. Yeah, see, this is always such a fun conversation.
We're just getting started.
But that's all good. I think you'll keep people's attention through this whole thing when they listen on their way in from work or wherever they listen to their podcast. But we're going into phase 3 now. That's the last phase of your process. And again, we're going to have our task force led by Rob Institute. For me, it was, yes, we use this discipline to get to the 3 or 4, or whatever it ends up being, implementable ideas that we want to implement with success, scale it, and use it and see it. There's a couple things that I think are going to happen in phase 3 other than getting it right. And I've made this comment to both of you, and he's heard it 100 times from me. When we go to these technology conferences and we go to these innovation activities, and I'm sure that was what was going on in Boise when you went to that, Rob, we're consultants. Our industry is filled with vendors and consultants that provide services for end users that are either in the private industry or in the municipal industry. And it's not always, but in general, innovations are not born out of the end user activity. It's more from the consultants that provide technology, advancing ideas. A lot of people are excited about all this and the technology and all that and with the power, but of course the clients are going to want it.
Right.
Going from the excitement to of course they're going to want it is a huge chasm of education and understanding and value proposition. And so we're going to, that's part of what we were talking about, getting the education to the client base. I mean, a podcast like this helps a little bit, but ultimately if these clients don't see the value of what they're writing checks for, that's a risk of implementation.
Yeah.
Right? We've always done it this way. What are you doing? I can't trust what you're I don't understand it. So let's talk a little bit, Rob, real quick about internally how we're going to deal with phase 3. And when I'm talking about client education, obviously a lot of AI application can handle the other part, our internal business practices. Clients don't need to see how we're reducing our expenses in business administration. But they do need to see what we're doing on the products we're giving them. So, long question.
Yeah.
Sorry. But why don't you take a
So I think education is super important, like not only for our clients, but also our staff. That's going to help minimize fear. When our staff found out that we formed the AI task force and engaged with YegaTech, they're like, is this going to replace my job? And my answer to them is, AI is not going to replace your job, but somebody using AI will.
Yes.
And with the labor shortages that we have today, AI can augment and help us do things more efficiently with less resources. So I think that's a big part is the education aspect, for sure.
Are you have any fears of just us being able to get it right in development of the tools and the outside expertise plus these? I mean, you're confident.
Yeah, my biggest fear, I would say, is
You need to be confident because we have you in charge of it.
the adoption and buy-in, because like any new technology, it's hard for people to adopt and implement and use, and it takes a while sometimes. So that's what we're all here for, and trying to educate everyone.
And 2024 will be the year we navigate the first wave of that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And hopefully we can have another podcast sometime next year at the end and say, look what we did. Right? This is what we got.
Yeah.
So we could talk like this for another hour, I'm sure. And we'll have other opportunities, I'm sure, as we move forward. But why don't we try to wind this up with some closing thoughts, and we'll end with YegaTech. But let's start with Dave and then go to Ram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about AI and the possibilities of where it could go. I think what I learned yesterday, and when you've talked about it today, is it's about the people, right? It's educating them, having good data, understanding the process, and then validating what you're doing. I mean, we talked about tools, right? Like I used to use a Lotus spreadsheet to do calculations, had a HEC2 software package to look at, floodplain analysis. At the end of the day, whatever that tool is, there's still got to be an engineer that's going to stamp and seal what that tool is telling you and validate it to say, hey, I stand behind that. I've checked it. That's reasonable. It's safe. And I'm going to put it out there and I stand behind that. Right. So that process isn't going away. But I'm excited about having another tool in the toolbox that'll allow us to do that quicker, provide more value for our clients, and do a lot of the fun side of engineering, which is brainstorming. How can we do this a better or a new way, an innovative way? AI is kind of looking backwards. It's looking at what we've done. We still need to be looking forward with our intuition and our insight, to come up with those great solutions.
I've known this guy 25 years. Mm-hmm. This is what excitement looks like. Actually, it's almost 30 years.
Yeah,
30 years.
almost 30 years. That's right.
Rob.
Long time. So I'm excited. We have a lot of talent here at Wade Trim, and I'm excited that we kind of harnessed a lot of that yesterday in the workshop. You kind of gave us the roadmap to implement this and be successful. Like Tim said, you're not giving us the fish, you're teaching us how to fish. So we have a lot of great ideas, and now it's full steam ahead to get these implemented and make us a better consultant company. So yeah,
that's
excited.
Good stuff. That's good stuff. Before I hand over to close, the educational piece, I forgot to mention that. In addition to what we did with the 35 participants yesterday, you offer a training session. Mm-hmm. And any one of the listeners here can probably get access to that. Why don't you, before you give our closing thoughts, just say how, if you want to learn more about AI and its impact to our industry, where would you go if you're a listener to this?
Yeah,
program?
so basically we have an online course, and it's a self-paced course for 2 hours, and you can go to our website, www.yegatech.com, and you can get access to the course. We also have an AI workbook, which is basically how you can get started your AI journey right now, right away. It has a sequence on how you can run the workshop that we ran yesterday on your own in your company, no cost. So you can go to yegatech.com/free and download the workbook. And if you put in the section, where did you hear from us, Innovation Alley, we'll sign 5 copies of the book and give that away to your listeners.
Is that called a double plug? I like it. All right, so why don't you guys bring a close to your thoughts over the last couple months, or whatever you want to say, but it's bring it close.
So for the future generation who are going to come and work in our industry, for them it really matters to work with a company that is looking forward, is like an innovator. Because for them, our industry may look a little bit boring, but once we have innovation, we have technology, it could make it more fun for them rather than just filling up like a spreadsheet or sitting behind the computer drawing lines, right? So what Waytrim is doing, the leadership is really unique compared to what's happening in the market. So you're trying to educate your current employees, make this place as like an innovation besides just doing like design and construction.
Right.
So that would attract more talents for your company, so you'll grow more. And through our phase one with Waytrim, the leadership team wasn't there, right? But what we were hearing from those interviewees was like they're embracing, they're like admiring how the leadership team is behind everything and is supporting this. Like Andy, team, Rob, and Dave, everyone here. And that's really unique. In most cases, people trying to convince their leadership to like see the potential, the values of
Right.
AI, but here it's like not only like bottoms up, also tops down, which is going to be
great.
powerful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, because we hope that's the case.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Mehdi, you're it. You're closing the
Oh, well.
podcast.
Oh my God.
A lot of pressure.
No pressure.
Lots of pressure. So as I mentioned yesterday, this is like a marathon. And this is a marathon that doesn't have any ending. And the reason we're teaching you how to fish is that with this ChatGPT and whole thing, this is just the starting point. Now, because governments are putting money in and trying to figure out who's going to lead the future. Is it going to be us? Is it going to be other companies in other continents? The point is that this is the beginning, and we're just getting started. And if you're not running this marathon race already, you're late. And for us really to be successful as an industry, we got to get every company on board, because the leaders of the industry are already moving. And there are some laggers that are taking no action. When we look into the companies in the space, a lot of companies are taking no action. They're like, let's wait and see what happens. But this is very different than CAD adoption or BIM adoption or all those things. So the next tier are the companies that basically they're reacting. They go to this conference and hear about these shiny things and they're, okay, let's implement that. They go to another, they approach a salesperson and let's react to that. But there are at the next year, there are a few companies or very smaller portion, of the industry that is creating an AI strategy and putting a strategy around it and becoming more proactive. And this is the work that we're doing with you at Waytrim, how we can be proactive and how we can use AI as a tool to our advantage to get market differentiation. And not many companies in the industry are doing that. So my invitation to your audience is that start being proactive, start thinking about how AI as a tool can give you something that no other competitors have. And let's run together in this marathon, because it's important for our industry to do that. If we don't do it, the danger is that another tech company with a lot of data, a lot of computing power, and a lot of resources may come in 5 years from now and disrupt this industry. Mm-hmm. So let's work together and push this industry forward.
Sense of urgency, some fear, but some excitement. Yeah. I liked your marathon analogy, because what happens if you want to run a marathon but you don't start in time?
Yeah.
And now you're 7 miles behind the marathon runner. You literally have to sprint to try and catch up, and you may never catch up, right?
Absolutely.
I like the analogy. Well, that's it. It was a great podcast, great topic. Thanks for being our guest and for spending time with us yesterday. And for all of us, thank you and have a great day.